welcome back to the channel. And this one is all about making money. One of the questions that I get asked a lot is, how come you've got so much money in your account? Well, there's probably a lot of people with a lot more. I've been fishing for a while now, so you can, you know, understand that even if you're making just a little bit every day, over a period of time, you'll have a lot of money. So here I'm going to give you 10 tips if you want to do the same. First of all, target the money fish. This means going to places like Blue Crab Island, targeting big tarpon or big drum. Or heading to California and catching sturgeon, which is probably the quickest way of making money. Another option is Alaska, where you can catch a lot of salmon, which pay quite well. Obviously, it's the uniques that you'll get the most money from. So if you can target those, then you'll be on to a winner. Another option, especially if you're at a lower level, is Michigan, where you can catch loads of pike. Usually when you get to this level, your money worries are over. However, all these tips apply to any level, even if you're just starting. The last option is weeping willows, where you can catch a lot of carp, and if you can get the uniques, you will make a lot of money very fast. Tip number 2, fish at peak times. There's no point sitting there all day when there's no fish activity and no fish biting. Just fast forward to the next peak time and fish that. You'll save a lot more time and you'll catch a lot more fish. You can see, for example, here at Blue Crab Island, fast forwarding to the next, even if it means moving on to the next day or the subsequent day, just go forward until you get to those peak times. Whether that's in the morning or at night. Same thing here at San Joaquin, California. We've got a different system here. All you need to do is, when you've caught 3 fish, just move forward an hour. So you'll be fishing at 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And that is a really quick way of making cash. Weeping willow as well, always check both weather and peak times, either fish in the night or mid-afternoon, depending on what kind of day it is. Tip number 3, reduce travel costs. Now, how can you do this? You can do it by paying for your travel once, but once you're at the location, don't leave. Stay there for a number of days, as long as you want. Even if you want, switch off your console without going back home, and it will mean that when you rejoin the game, you'll still be at that location. You don't have to pay to go back there, and you can just fish day after day as long as you've renewed your fishing license. Tip number 4, if you can, use cheaper bait, so you can get the same results with a cheaper bait. So why buy the most expensive one? One good example is with live bait. So you've got Chinas, which are really good and they're really cheap. So you can get 10 for 650, so that's what, 65 each. Or you can get large minnows, which are 950 for 5. So that's like almost 200 each, so they're a bit more expensive. You've got your cheaper baits that you can use for bottom fishing, like your spawn sacks, which you can use for your sturgeon, and you don't need anything more expensive than that. And then at the other end of the scale, when you're live baiting, scale sardines 1700 for 5. That is extortionate to get the same amount of results. Another example is here at Weeping Willows. When I carp fish, you can use boilies, but you can also use the cheaper alternative of halibut sinking pellets. Tip number 5, only buy tackle that you need. Get yourself a big keep net, a boat, a big bait box, a big waistcoat, and a big rod hold all, enough to carry all your rods and reels. The most important of those is the big keep net, because it means that you don't need to be losing out when your keep net is full and having to fast forward to the next day when the fishing is good. As far as everything else, like the rods and the reels, bait, terminal tackle, I can imagine that a lot of people have so much gear that they don't know what to do with it. Some of it they probably don't even use. So what I do is I stick to a limited amount of gear for the fish that I'm targeting. So what am I doing? I'm going to the places that I said, trying to catch the big fish that give me the most money. So if I've got here, for example, heavy chasers, I can use that heavy chaser not just for the sturgeon, but also for Blue Crab Island for fishing on the bottom. And really, for anywhere else that I want to go where I can catch big fish on the bottom. I only use one spinning setup, so that'll do me for going to Alaska and catching salmon. Because here we're talking about money, we're not talking about XP. If you want money, you want to get heavier gear, and that means you can get the fishing quicker as well. And with that same spinning setup, I can go to Blue Crab Island and I can fish for tarpon on the top, or I can target peacock bass on the top using a buzzbait or one of those big poppers. So one rod really does you for all those big fish. So there's no need to be buying a lot of smaller, lighter rods. Unless that's the fishing that you enjoy and you want to do that, that's fair enough. But here, to get the most amount of money, you need to fish heavy. The same applies for float fishing. So with a pair of Majesty rods, you can fish for the tarpon, you can fish for muskie and pike. You just need to change the line that you're using. You might want to go a little bit lighter, but it's the same setup, either with a titanium leader or a mono or fluoro leader. But this here, for example, in Blue Crab Island, I am using the same rods that I was using for the other species in different places. Now what I do as well, this is interesting, is that when I fish here in Blue Crab Island, I've got 4 rods out. I've got the bottom rod out at 40 meters to the left there, which I've just set that drum on. This second rod, what that is, it's a bottom fishing kit. So I've got my heavy chaser again, but this time I've got a shiner on a 6/0 hook, and I'm using, instead of a short leader, I'm using a 2-meter leader. So what that means is that even though I'm fishing on the bottom, that live bait is swimming around 2 meters above or to the side of my lead, which means that I can pick up all different kinds of fish, and because it's heavy chase, I get the fish in quickly as well. And rods 3 and 4 are my Majesties, and they're fishing 60-70 centimeters. That is exactly the same setup that I would use for pike and also sturgeon. That's that left hand rod, 40 meters. That is a great spot for drum, by the way. And you can use cheap baits there. You can use shrimp, you can use the large cut bait, which is really super cheap as well. So you're using different methods there, and you can even, if you want, get the spinning rod out and take tarpon off the top. That's a second rod again, just using the 2 meter leader, and it's not just for the tarpon, but you can get other things off that as well. Tip number 6, sell tackle that you don't need. Like what I was saying before, people have loads and loads of rods and reels and that. You don't need it all, so just sell it. You can sell it. You don't get as much as what you bought it for, but it's all money going back into, you know, buying bait or whatever. Just settle with those things that you know you're going to catch fish on. And sometimes you'll have bought tackle with bait coins, and that means you'll get bait coins back, and you can use those for when you have to, you know, move between peak times, fast forward times. Sometimes it lasts you for 1 bait coin. You'll have that because you've sold some stuff. Tip number 7, reduce repair costs. One of the things that really annoys some people about this game is that everything gets worn down, or you know, it needs to be replaced. So the repair costs seem to be pretty high for the game. You can't avoid them, but what you can do is when you fish, you can balance your tackle, and that means your rod, your reel, and your line, so that you share the stress, not your stress, the stress on the tackle, which is shared between the rod, the reel, and the line. Here I'm using a 26 kilo Deep Horizon, 26 kilo Leviathan reel, and 0.29 braid, which is also about 26 kilos as well. So you share that, and you can see on the tension bar that it's less stressful. Tip number 8, use heavier tackle. Here we're not worried about XP as much, it's about making money. If you want to make more XP, you have to fish lighter. But if you want to make money and get the fish in quickly, fish heavier. You can see here me setting up my carp rods. What I'm doing is exactly what I said in the earlier tip, where you're balancing your rods and fishing a little bit heavier than what you would do otherwise if it was XP that you're interested in. Tip number 9, spend less than you make. Now this is really similar to real life. If you spend less than you make, you'll have money in your bank account. And finally, tip number 10, make sure you enjoy it. It's a great game, and whether you're trying to cash in or if you're trying to level up, you'll have a lot of fun doing it. So hopefully these tips have been useful. Some of it's common sense. If you put them all together, you will probably make more money than you're spending, and that will mean that you'll be laughing all the way to the bank, I suppose. Right then, and hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time.